Tomorrowland has always been a window to the future, a showcase of bold ideas and groundbreaking technology. But over the decades, this land of tomorrow has seen its fair share of change. Attractions that once promised cutting-edge, futuristic experiences have disappeared, leaving behind stories of innovation, ambition, and sometimes failure. Dive into the fascinating history of these attractions and the legacy they left behind in the ever-evolving world of Disneyland. When Disneyland opened in 1955, Tomorrowland promised to be a futuristic world with predictions of things to come. An attraction that stayed true to this ideal would be Rocket to the Moon. Opening just days after the park, the ambitious experience gave visitors a chance to imagine what space travel might feel like, years before it became a reality. Rocket to the Moon was housed in a sleek, futuristic building, marked by its towering Moonliner rocket. Standing 80 feet tall, the Moonliner was designed to resemble the rockets of science fiction, with its gleaming white body and red striped accents. For years it dominated Disneyland's skyline and became a Tomorrowland icon. Stepping inside the sleek building, guests encountered a circular theatre, designed to simulate a spaceship. With screens on both the ceiling and floor, the theatre created the illusion of a journey through space. Visitors were briefed before liftoff, setting the stage for a fictional commercial moonflight by TWA, one of the attraction's original sponsors. As the rocket launched, the floor screen showed Earth shrinking below, while the ceiling revealed the vastness of space. Guests witnessed a complete orbit of the Moon before returning safely to Earth. For a generation not yet familiar with actual space travel, Rocket to the Moon offered a thrilling glimpse of the possibilities that awaited. However, the reality of technology soon outpaced the attraction. By the 1960s, NASA's Apollo program was well underway, and real moon landings were on the horizon. In 1966, Rocket to the Moon would close, its building demolished as part of the new Tomorrowland project. The attraction was reimagined as Flight to the Moon. Housed in a new building, larger theatres would provide more capacity. The update would introduce a mission control pre-show, featuring audio animatronics. Flight to the Moon would also feature updated visuals, moving seats, and a storyline more grounded in scientific realism. Even with these updates, the attraction began to show its age. In 1975, Flight to the Moon was replaced by Mission to Mars, reflecting a shift in public fascination towards the next frontier of space exploration. Mission to Mars retained the same theatre as its predecessor, but featured a brand new storyline with a flight to the Red Planet. Mission to Mars would close on November 2, 1992. Initially, the plan was to redevelop the attraction as part of the Tomorrowland 2055 project, but when this was shelved, the space sat unused. Briefly opening as the Toy Story Funhouse, the building would become Red Rocket's Pizza Port in 1998 and eventually Alien Pizza Planet. Joining the rides in Tomorrowland for 1961 were the Flying Saucers. Opening on August 5th, the Flying Saucers were unlike anything Disneyland had ever built. The unusual attraction placed guests in individual saucer-shaped vehicles, floating on a cushion of air. Guests would board single-passenger ride vehicles designed to resemble a futuristic spacecraft. 14 saucers at a time would be released into one of two semicircular ride areas. The technology behind the Flying Saucers was ambitious. Each saucer hovered on a thin layer of air. Beneath the attraction, an intricate system of valves maintained the delicate balance required to keep the saucers afloat. Guests controlled their saucers by leaning in different directions, adjusting the airflow to move, spin, or bounce off other riders. At the end of the ride, a large boom arm would sweep the Flying Saucers towards the loading area. The attraction was interactive, exciting, and for many, pure fun. However, the Flying Saucers quickly faced challenges. The system was temperamental, requiring constant maintenance to function properly. Uneven weight distribution in the vehicles often caused operational issues, and some guests struggled to grasp the controls, leading to a less than smooth experience. The ride also had a low capacity, which meant long wait times for a relatively short ride. After just 5 years of operation, the Flying Saucers would close on September 5, 1966. Tomorrowland was undergoing a complete overhaul. The majority of the original buildings were demolished, with new ones constructed in their place, changing the layout of the land. When the new Tomorrowland premiered on July 2nd, 1967, the flying saucers were nowhere to be seen. In their place, the Tomorrowland stage, a venue for musical entertainment, concerts and shows. The decision to close the attraction was ultimately due to its high maintenance cost. The technology required to keep such an attraction operating had not been perfected, and the ride would suffer regular breakdowns. Gone but not forgotten, the concept of the flying saucers were resurrected 47 years later. In 2012, as part of Cars Land, the resort would open Luigi's Flying Tires. Utilising a similar ride system, guests could once again pilot their own vehicle across a cushion of air. Suffering a similar fate to the original, the Flying Tires would close in 2015, before being reimagined as Luigi's Rollicking Roadsters. During its early years, Disneyland wasn't just a theme park, it was a showcase for new ideas. And in 1957, nestled in Tomorrowland, the Monsanto House of the Future opened to the public. The innovative home was a bold vision of how technology and materials could redefine the way we live. The futuristic dwelling was a collaboration between Monsanto, MIT, and Walt Disney Imagineering. Looking to demonstrate the versatility of the material, the house was constructed almost entirely out of plastics. From its sleek design to its durable, lightweight construction, the House of the Future would showcase this modern material. Even the architecture of the house was futuristic. Suspended above the ground on a central pedestal, its cantilevered rooms seemed to float above the landscape gardens below. Inside, guests marvelled at built-in conveniences that were ahead of their time. A microwave oven, ultrasonic dishwasher, and flat-screen television were all displayed, giving those who entered the house a glimpse of what was to come. Over the next decade, 20 million Disneyland visitors toured the Monsanto House of the Future. The interior was refreshed periodically, but as the 1960s progressed, the house began to feel less futuristic. Plastics were becoming commonplace, and the minimalist design started to look dated in a world increasingly embracing new architectural trends. In December 1967, just 10 years after its debut, the Monsanto House of the Future closed. It would be dismantled to make way for a new Tomorrowland expansion. However, the house's durability proved a challenge. Demolition crews found the structure so resilient that wrecking balls just bounced off the exterior. Though the Monsanto House of the Future is long gone, it would go on to inspire future attractions. In 2008, the Innoventions Dream Home would open. Conceptually similar, this exhibit would showcase upcoming trends and technology from the near future. The Carousel of Progress dates back to the 1964 to 1965 New York World's Fair, where it debuted in the General Electric Pavilion, Progress Land. Designed to showcase advances in technology and its impact on daily life. The show featured a rotating theatre that transported audiences through decades of progress. This was tied together with its catchy theme song, There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, written by the Sherman Brothers. After the World's Fair, the Carousel of Progress found a new home at Disneyland. Opening on July 2, 1967, it quickly became a centrepiece of the reimagined New Tomorrowland. The attraction retained its rotating theatre design, offering guests a chance to journey through 4 distinct scenes, each representing a different era in American history and showcasing the advances in the technology of the time. The first act began around 1900. Guests saw a family marvelling at innovations like telephones, ice boxes, and a hand-cranked washing machine. The second act jumped to the 1920s, a time of electricity, radios, and the growing popularity of indoor plumbing. The third scene depicted the 1940s, highlighting advances like television, refrigerators, and the post-war optimism that defined the era. Finally, the fourth act envisaged the then-modern 1960s, with futuristic concepts like video recording, whole-home sound systems, and a family enjoying leisure time with this new technology. The final act would take place on the upper floor of the theatre. Guests would board a speed ramp to the second level, where they would see an enormous animated model of Progress City. Each scene was brought to life with advanced audio animatronic figures, setting a new standard for Disney attractions. The rotating theatre design ensured that Disneyland's crowds could be easily handled, as audiences moved seamlessly from one scene to the next every 4 minutes. General Electric continued to sponsor the attraction, reinforcing its message of progress driven by technological innovation. Despite its popularity, by the early 1970s, the Carousel of Progress began to feel dated, especially its final scene. General Electric also thought that much of the local audience had seen the show and suggested a move to the new Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. The attraction closed on September 9, 1973, ready for the move. It would reopen at the Magic Kingdom in 1975 with a new theme song, The Best Time of Your Life. Receiving another update in the 1990s, it remains a beloved fixture in Florida, continuing to entertain guests. At Disneyland, the space will be used for America Sings, another audio animatronic-driven show. America Sings used the same rotating theatre concept to present a musical journey across the country, featuring charming characters and lively renditions of folk and patriotic songs. In 1967, Tomorrowland underwent a major transformation, introducing attractions that showcased advancements in science and technology. Among these was Adventure Through Inner Space, a groundbreaking dark ride that invited guests to shrink to the size of atoms and journey into a mysterious microscopic world. Sponsored by Monsanto, the attraction blended science, imagination, and cutting-edge technology, offering a unique experience unlike anything Disneyland had offered before. In fact, this was the first use of the Omnimover ride system. The journey began in the queue, where guests encountered the Monsanto Mighty Microscope, a towering scientific device that appeared to shrink riders before their eyes. A clever design created the illusion of riders ahead being miniaturized as they passed through the microscope. An endless line of ride cars would pass through the station, and visitors would climb aboard from a moving platform. Once aboard their Atomobiles, guests were guided by the narration of Paul Frees. The Atomobiles moved slowly, allowing guests to observe each carefully crafted scene. They passed through the crystalline structures of a snowflake, vividly brought to life with glowing lights and intricate details, before venturing deeper into molecular structures. Water molecules swirled and danced, and eventually riders reached the nucleus of an atom itself. Lighting, projections, and practical effects combined to create an immersive world that felt both scientific and otherworldly. Upon exiting, guests would hear the bouncy theme song, Miracles from Molecules, written by the Sherman Brothers, while they were invited to explore the sponsor's promotional exhibits. While the science was simplified for accessibility, the ride captured the bold spirit that defined the era. Initially, the attraction could be ridden for free, courtesy of Monsanto, while in later years a C ticket was required. Adventure Through Inner Space quickly became a favourite with guests, visitors often re-riding, such was its popularity. But as Disneyland evolved, Adventure Through Inner Space struggled to stay relevant. By the 1980s, the park's focus had shifted towards action-packed, thrill-based attractions. The ride would close on September 2, 1985, making way for a new groundbreaking attraction. Star Tours would open in its place, using cutting-edge simulator technology to transport Disneyland guests to a galaxy far, far away. On June 29, 1974, America Sings premiered in Tomorrowland as a patriotic celebration of American music and culture. Installed in the former home of the Carousel of Progress, the attraction used the same rotating theatre design, with guests moving from scene to scene while seated in one of 6 auditorium sections. However, unlike its predecessor's focus on technological progress, America Sings was a light-hearted musical revue that travelled through American history via song. As the United States celebrated its bicentennial, patriotic themes were in vogue, and America Sings was Imagineering's way of honouring the nation's cultural heritage. Initially, there were discussions about tying the show to the bicentennial celebrations, or creating a direct connection to the rest of Tomorrowland. Instead, America Sings became a standalone tribute to the evolution of American music. The show was hosted by Sam the Eagle, who served as a guide and narrator, accompanied by Ollie Owl, his often comedic sidekick. Sam and Ollie introduced audiences to 4 main acts, each representing a different era and style of American music. The first act was set in the Southern Bayou, complete with Spanish moss and croaking frogs. This segment featured folk and gospel songs like Dixie and Camptown Races. Anthropomorphic animals, including alligators, hounds, and foxes, brought the songs to life, with whimsical audio-animatronic performances. As the theatre rotated, guests were transported to the American frontier, where cowboy ballads and saloon tunes dominated. Songs like Home on the Range and The Old Chisholm Trail were performed by a cast of critters, including a scraggly turkey and a guitar-strumming dog. Then it was on to the charm of the 1890s, with barbershop quartets and ragtime melodies. Highlights included a singing quartet of geese and a lively rendition of Tarara Boomdier. The colourful costumes and cheerful atmosphere embodied the optimism of the era. The final act brought guests into the 20th century, featuring big band, jazz and rock and roll. Songs like Hound Dog and Shake, Rattle and Roll set the stage for a vibrant finale. The transition from one era to the next highlighted the changing soundscape of America, with Sam the Eagle tying it all together with his thoughtful reflections and a rendition of Yankee Doodle. While America Sings was loved by guests, its location in Tomorrowland felt increasingly out of place as the land's focus shifted towards space-age technology and futuristic themes. After a 14-year run, the attraction closed on April 10, 1988. The audio animatronics from America Sings found new homes in other Disney attractions, with some even transferred during its operational run. Upon the attraction's closure, many were repurposed for Splash Mountain, with the style of the characters fitting perfectly into the ride's Song of the South-inspired scenes. Following the closure of America Sings in 1988, the Carousel Theatre sat largely unused for a decade, becoming office space with the external appearance unchanged. In 1998, the building was repurposed into Innoventions, a walk-through attraction showcasing emerging technologies and interactive exhibits. Debuting in 1967 as part of Disneyland's ambitious new Tomorrowland overhaul, the People Mover provided a relaxing tour of Tomorrowland, passing over, under and even through many of the attractions that made up the land. But this wasn't just a ride, it was seen as a prototype for future urban public transport. The attraction's vehicles themselves featured no propulsion. Instead, rubber tyres embedded in the track propelled the canopy cars smoothly along their elevated route. The pace was leisurely, with a top speed of 7 miles per hour. Guests would take a moving walkway to an elevated station in the centre of Tomorrowland. Riders boarded the People Mover from a rotating platform that kept pace with the vehicles. The vehicles carried up to 4 passengers per car and were continuously moving, ensuring steady boarding and minimal wait times. In fact, the People Mover could handle over 4,800 people per hour. Once on board, guests embarked on a 16-minute journey through Tomorrowland's various attractions. The route offered sweeping views of the park, with narration highlighting key features as well as instrumental music, including the sponsors' Go Go Goodyear jingle. Starting with an aerial view of the land and Central Plaza, the first attraction guests would encounter would be Adventure Through Inner Space. Those on board would catch a glimpse of the queue and mighty microscope below. Emerging outside, the Tomorrowland stage and rocket jets could be seen before a trip through the Carousel Theatre. Inside, those on board would see a panoramic view of Progress City as the attraction rotated below. Speeding up, cars would travel to the edge of Tomorrowland, soaring above the submarine voyage in Autopia. The last attraction on the tour would be America the Beautiful, with those on board seeing part of the colourful pre-show. The comprehensive tour would conclude where it started, with riders exiting to the hustle and bustle of Tomorrowland. When the Carousel of Progress closed in 1973, guests on the People Mover could still see Progress City on the upper floor of the building, even after the opening of America Sings. Closing for an upgrade in 1976, the People Mover would be enhanced. When it returned in May 1977, the route now passed through the new Space Mountain. Progress City was also gone, and the upper level of the Carousel Theatre now contained the Superspeed Tunnel. This large wraparound screen featured footage of race cars, giving the impression of speed. This was again updated in 1982. Guests would enter the game grid from the film Tron and become part of a light cycle race. Despite its popularity, the People Mover began to face challenges as the new millennium approached. Maintenance became a growing concern, and Disneyland's focus was shifting towards more dynamic and thrilling attractions. The ride itself no longer represented a prototype innovative transportation. Plans were made to update the aging People Mover, and the ride would transport its last guests on August 21, 1995. Opening in its place in 1998 would be Rocket Rods, a high-speed futuristic drag race. In the late 1990s, Disneyland's Tomorrowland underwent its biggest renovation since 1967, updating its vision of the future and changing to a bronzed colour palette. The beloved People Mover had already closed as part of this overhaul, and in its place would be a new high-speed thrill ride. Rocket Rods opened on May 22, 1998, as the centrepiece of the new Tomorrowland. The ride reused much of the elevated track from the People Mover, but the ride experience was dramatically altered. Instead of a leisurely tour, Rocket Rods promised a high-speed, adrenaline-fueled trip above Tomorrowland. The ride experience began in the former Circle Vision 360 Theatre, which was transformed into Rocket Rods Q. Guests would view a multimedia presentation showcasing the evolution of transportation. Passing through a tunnel and up a staircase, would-be riders would find themselves on an elevated load platform. Waiting for them, futuristic 5-passenger vehicles. Once on board, the sleek Rocket Rod vehicles launched into the track with a burst of speed, accelerating quickly before suddenly decelerating at each curve. The journey would follow that of the former People Mover, but completed the old 16-minute route in only 3. Vehicles would speed along the straight sections before slowing as they rounded the many corners. Despite its thrilling premise, Rocket Rods faced significant issues from the start. The ride's design relied on the existing People Mover track, which was never intended to handle the stress of a high-speed attraction. The budget for the renovation didn't include the addition of banking, so the track's sharp turns forced the vehicles to slow dramatically at each corner. This resulted in a jarring experience for riders and excessive wear on the vehicles. The main complaint from guests was while fun, it lacked the true excitement of a thrill ride, especially after the long waits the ride commanded. The ride was plagued by constant mechanical failures, and as soon as 6 weeks after opening, it closed for a 3-month refurbishment. By September 2000, just over 2 years after its debut, Rocket Rods closed for what was initially announced as a temporary renovation. No work was ever seen to take place on the attraction, and in 2001, Disney quietly confirmed that the ride would not reopen. Today, the Rocket Rods track remains a prominent yet abandoned feature of Tomorrowland. While Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters would open in 2005, taking the place of Rocket Rods Q, parts of the former attraction remain. The elevated track, a reminder of the leisurely People Mover, and Rocket Rods, its ambitious yet flawed replacement. Constructed in the shadow of Space Mountain was the Space Stage. Opening in 1977, this outdoor venue was home to numerous shows, Disneyland entertainment, and musical performances. In the mid-1980s, the venue underwent a transformation, and the Space Stage was enclosed and reimagined to become the Magic Eye Theatre. Constructed to house an upcoming production, the theatre would open a number of months early, in May 1986, and feature the previously run film Magic Journeys. Originally premiering with Epcot Centre, Magic Journeys looked at the world through the eyes of a child, and was no stranger to Tomorrowland, having been shown at the outdoor Space Stage in prior years. Debuting in September would be Captain EO, a 17-minute sci-fi musical adventure directed by Francis Ford Coppola and starring Michael Jackson. Captain EO was a dazzling mix of 3D visuals, special effects, and a pop music soundtrack. Guests followed the captain and his ragtag crew as they delivered a gift of music and light to a sinister alien queen, played by Angelica Houston. At the time, it was the most expensive film ever made on a per-minute basis, costing an estimated $30 million. The cutting-edge 3D technology and in-theatre effects, such as lasers and smoke, made Captain EO a phenomenon. Captain EO would run until April 1997. Tomorrowland was undergoing another transformation, loosely based on the Discoveryland design from Disneyland Paris. The Magic Eye Theatre was upgraded and a new film would be introduced. Already running for 4 years at Epcot, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience premiered in 1998. Based on the popular Honey, I Shrunk the Kids film franchise, this attraction placed guests into a fictional science awards ceremony, where an experiment by Professor Wayne Zelinsky went hilariously wrong. The show featured in-theatre effects like vibrating seats and air sprays, adding to the chaos throughout. In 2010, following the passing of Michael Jackson, Captain EO made a triumphant return as a tribute to the late pop star. Now titled Captain EO Tribute, it rekindled nostalgia for fans while introducing the next generation to its classic storytelling. It continued to entertain guests until 2014. Starting on July 4th that year, the theatre began showing sneak peeks and compilations of Disney movies, starting with Guardians of the Galaxy. The Magic Eye Theatre officially closed in 2015 when it was renamed the Tomorrowland Theatre. Continuing to show film excerpts, in recent years it has sat mostly unused. In 1998, the park would introduce Innoventions to Tomorrowland, repurposing the long-dormant Carousel Theatre that had previously housed the patriotic revue America Sings. Inspired by its counterpart at Epcot in Florida and opening as part of the new Tomorrowland renovation, Innoventions was designed to showcase emerging technologies and their potential to shape the future. Much like the Epcot version, Disneyland's Innoventions featured a variety of interactive exhibits and demonstrations. The building itself retained the rotating theatre design from its predecessor, but this time the focus wasn't a stage show. Instead, individual corporate-led exhibits allowed guests to get up and close with near-future technology. Guests would be admitted to the building in groups and be welcomed by animatronic host Tom Morrow, with a rendition of There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. Tom would introduce one of the 5 zones, with visitors seeing a different interactive demonstration in the area of either entertainment, home, sports, transportation, or work. The outer core of the building rotated continuously, and following the demonstration, guests could explore the 2 floors of Innoventions at their own pace. Exhibits would be changed periodically as new sponsors came on board or others departed, and this kept the attractions somewhat fresh. Innoventions included robotic demonstrations, virtual reality games, and a glimpse at futuristic transportation concepts. Starting in 2008, guests entered a futuristic home on the lower level, called the Dream Home, which showcased cutting-edge appliances and smart technology. Inspired by the earlier Monsanto House of the Future, visitors could explore the rooms of the home and get hands-on with the futuristic kitchen, enjoy starlit story time in the kids' bedroom, or see a 3D printer in the home office. Despite its ambitious vision, Innoventions struggled to capture the same excitement as other Tomorrowland attractions. Attendance waned over the years, with critics noting that many of the exhibits became outdated, as technology advanced rapidly in the real world. Starting in 2013, the upper floors were home to Marvel character meet and greets, with the number of technology-led exhibits declining. After nearly 2 decades, Innoventions closed its doors on 31st of March 2015, marking the end of its tenure in Disneyland's Tomorrowland. The building didn't stay idle for long. It was reimagined as the Tomorrowland Expo Centre and reopened on November 16th the same year. The first floor hosted Star Wars Launch Bay, a walk-through attraction and meet and greet location dedicated to the popular franchise, while the upper level retained the previous meet and greets as Superhero HQ. More recently, the building has been used for a Disney Vacation Club lounge, as well as space for the Disney Imagination Campus program. From the hopeful promises of Monsanto House of the Future to the high-speed ambition of Rocket Rods, the lost attractions of Tomorrowland reveal a landscape that's constantly evolving while always looking ahead to the next big idea. Though these experiences are no longer with us, they remain a part of Disneyland's story, influencing what came after and shaping the park we know today.